Put a finger down if you constantly question your abilities, skills, and accomplishments despite the presence of evidence. Put a finger down if you set excessively high standards for yourself and you feel like a failure if those standards are not met. Put a finger down if you have difficulty internalizing praise and compliments, believing that they are undeserved. Put a finger down if you sometimes feel like a fraud. Put a finger down if you feel inadequate compared to your peers. I want to start this conversation with my tech journey. During the pandemic, I began a pivot into product design. Now I currently have over 3+ years of relevant experience as a product designer, and I am also a mentor on ADP lists. I'm an in-house designer at Yelp, and I've also worked on the agency side of things. Before my tech career, I spent 4+ years in academia where I published a couple of papers. When I moved on from academia, I spent over 7 years successfully managing my fashion business. I also have undergraduate and postgraduate degrees. This context is important because despite this impressive journey, imposter syndrome still finds its way into my professional life. If you're watching this video, my guess is that imposter syndrome is something that you probably encountered in the past or may be dealing with right now. There may have been professional situations where you felt like a fraud or you felt like you were not good enough. It is comforting to know that even famous people, from Hollywood superstars like Viola Davis and even former First Lady Michelle Obama, have admitted to experiencing it. This topic is quite popular that if you search on the internet, I'm sure you'll find thousands of articles addressing the subject. Given that, the goal of this video is to share my personal experience and perspective on this matter, so hopefully it helps you. I've had a lot of time to think about the reasons why I struggle with imposter syndrome in my professional life. In my experience, there are 5 reasons why I have struggled with it. Firstly, the circumstance under which I was hired made me doubt my abilities. I'll quickly share my story. So through a connection, I got a referral for a product design role at Yelp. I went through the interview process, and during my last interview, which was a whiteboard challenge, I had a technical issue. My slide deck, which I had put together in Figma, wasn't showing in presentation mode. This destabilized me, and throughout the interview, I just kept on apologizing. In hindsight, that was a bad move, a rookie move. I shouldn't have apologized more than once. I should have moved on. Also, in some other sections of the interview, I felt like I could have done better. So you can imagine my surprise and excitement when I got an offer. I began looking for ways to rationalize the disconnect between how I thought I did in the interview versus how I actually did. So I concluded that I was probably a diversity hire. Although I immediately shook off the negative inner voice, the seed was already sown. Secondly, my non-traditional path into UX has made me feel intimidated by those who appear more qualified. When I'm in a room with people who look more qualified than me, maybe because of the number of years they have in the industry or because they've had a traditional path into UX, I get intimidated. I often think to myself, what if I'm wrong? What can I say that someone else hasn't already contributed? These inner thoughts, they deepen the feeling of unworthiness, and they sometimes make me second guess myself. Thirdly, my transition from entrepreneurship to corporate has made me question my value to the team. So previously, I was responsible for measuring the impact of my work, but now I feel the need to prove my value to my team. In addition, I did not have prior experience working in corporate environment. So my previous experience, as you probably already know, was in academia, and this is quite different. So I'm still figuring out what is acceptable and what isn't, which has further increased my insecurities. Fourthly, navigating the transition between Nigerian and Canadian culture and system has contributed to my feeling of imposter syndrome. At work, I often question whether my message is clearly conveyed and whether others fully understand my perspective. This fuels the feeling that I don't belong. And lastly, my personality type has also contributed to my imposter syndrome. So I've been taking the 16 personality test for years, and although the composition has changed, I'm still INFP-T. A major trait that shows up for me and most INFP-T is the desire to be perfect. When I fall short of the high standard I have set for myself, this erodes my confidence. I have come to understand that recognizing these challenges is the initial step towards conquering them. While it may be impossible to eliminate imposter syndrome, one can learn to diminish its impact. Here are 7 practical ways I am using to overcome imposter syndrome today. Number 1, I acknowledge my self-doubt and feeling of inadequacies as irrational thoughts. Whenever these thoughts arise, I remind myself that they are not facts and that many successful people, just like me, experience the same feeling. Another thing that I do is that I seek support from mentorship and therapy to normalize my experiences and gain helpful perspective. For example, I signed up on BetterHelp for a therapist, and they helped me to see things really objectively by acting as a sounding board. In addition to these, I also document my achievements and positive feedback to refer back to when I'm doubting myself. This is essentially what is called a brag document, and I've talked extensively about it in a video, and I'm going to link that video up here in case you're interested in taking a look. Another thing that I have done is to replace negative self-talk with confession and self-affirming statements. So for example, right now I have scriptures pasted all over my room, and I have written them as confessions so that I can say them over and over again, and it's helping me with my positive mindset. I'm also learning to accept that perfection isn't possible, and part of human life is mistakes and learning from them and growing through them. I have also found practical solutions to close the communication gap and skills gap issue, which has boosted my confidence so far. For example, I took a speaking class and also a training in visual design, and these have boosted my confidence so much so that I am more confident speaking or sharing my opinion in a room. And also something that was a major confidence boost for me was when I had a coffee chat with a colleague who was seeking advice on how to get a job within my company, and I just shared tips and tricks with her, and I found that we had come full circle because initially when I moved to Canada, I reached out to her to have a coffee chat and she shared tips, and this time it was me doing that for her. So this gave me a major kick. I was like, Grace, way to go, you know. And finally, I've learned to give myself a little bit more grace. So from conversations with colleagues in the industry, I realized that we're all just figuring things out as we go along. So I'm like, okay, I'm part of the crew. I hope that what I've shared so far helps you to build your confidence, to know that although you might be going through that feeling of inadequacy, you're not alone. Just find opportunities to speak up, find opportunities to boost your confidence, and also learn what you need to do to close your skills gap. Okay, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and also share with your friends who you think might need this, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to subscribe to this channel. Until I come to you next time, bye bye.